I'm not a lawyer. What I just read sounds very technical. But what I understand from my small mind is that there is a screen of privacy regarding persons that are under the Child Care Protective Act, regarding persons in state care, regarding persons such as Jayden, if he was found and is in the Protective Service Agency. Jaden Smith, personal information will not be known to the public, will not be known to the media, can be reduced, can be removed from publication. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you're following me carefully here, but chances are we may not know the truth about Jaden Smith. We may not know the whereabouts of Jaden Smith. We may never hear from the authorities that be concerning Jaden Smith if he is in state care. So the notion and the question for us concerned residents, parents, and citizens of Jamaica should be to the joint selected committee, to the joint selected committees of Parliament, who has the power in revising the Child Care Protection Act. What we should be seeking as a public is someone in authority, whether the Ministry of Justice, whether the Police Commissioner's Office, whether the Ministry of Education, or whether the court system, or the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Someone should come to us, the public, and only let us know. Jayden was found, Jayden is safe, and Jayden is alive. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Jaden Smith's story is not your normal story of a missing child. To understand the depth of Jaden Smith's story, we must look into the Child Care Protection Act. Look carefully at the revised Act of the year 2017 to 2008. Now, interestingly, a few days ago, I was in Toronto, Canada, where I met few ladies, very exciting ladies who I did not know were listening to my recordings concerning Jaden Smith. And I have here with me today a document entitled The Revision of the Child Care Protection Act by the Spotlight Initiative, United Nations Development Program, UNDP, for submission to the Honorable Minister of Education, Youth and Information. Ladies and gentlemen, if you must understand the Jaden Smith saga, you must understand the Jamaica Child Care Protection Act. Today, due to time, I want to look at this revision of the Child Care Protection Act. This document I have here says the Joint Selected Committee of Parliament on Sexual Offences Act and other selected laws that met during 2017 and 2018 compiled a list of recommendations for amending and updating the Child Care and Protection Act, known as CCPA, including recommendations designed to improve the law's protection of children from violence. We note that the Child Protection and Family Service Agency, CPFSA, helped to inform those recommendations, providing multiple submissions on the pragmatic and policy implications of the current formulation and proposed changes to the CCPA. The changes recommended by the Joint Selected Committee were far-reaching and are consistent with Jamaica's requirement under Article 19 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child to take all appropriate legislative measures to ensure children's protection from all forms of physical and mental violence, injury, or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse while in the care of parents or legal guardians. Ladies and gentlemen, let's pause for a moment and look at that last statement there. During the year 2017 to 2018, a joint selected committee of Parliament had met and discussed several things regarding the Child Care Protection Act of Jamaica as it was implemented to protect the rights of children. But note what it says here in this article. These are some recommendations that the changes recommended by the Joint Selected Committee were far-reaching and are consistent with the Jamaica's requirement under Article 19 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. I'll talk about the Article 19 on the rights of the child in my next presentation. And it says that this legislation is to ensure the protection of children from all forms of physical and mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse while in the care of parents or legal guardians. Pause there again. Why do I believe that Jaden Smith is alive? I believe that Jaden Smith is alive based on the Child Care Protection Act, especially during the years 2017 and 2018 when these legislative acts were revised. This segment, which mentioned several ways that the Child Care Protection Act or the CPFSA, Child Protective Family Service Agency, should protect the rights of children. What are some of them? 1. Protection from all forms of physical and mental violence. How does this fit in regarding to Jaden Smith? Ladies and gentlemen, even if Jaden Smith was not exposed to mental and physical violence after his disappearance, the terminologies and the things that were said by persons, even some description, such as Jayden being a bad boy, Jayden being a runaway child, Jayden being involved in wrong things. How do we know that? What is the proof? Right there, isn't it that we are mentally abusing Jayden based on things we don't know about Jayden? Now, Jayden would need some form of protection from the Child Care Protective Service, from mental abuse, not from the parents at this moment, but from the public. Many persons talking about him being unalive, and many people saying things not just about the family, not Everything about Jayden was positive. Isn't that a child that would now needs to be protected under the revised Child Care Protection Act? Not just that, it also says to protect the child from mental violence, injury, or abuse. Why were they seeking for Jayden? Why was the public and his relative trying to find him? So that there would be no injury, no hurt, or no physical violence to Jayden, neither by himself or by anyone else. And that indeed would need to draw the attention of the Child Care Protective Agency, the Child Care Protective Act, the Child Family Protective Service Agency would now need to get into gear, into action, if they hear of the things that were said about Jaden Smith being missing. Neglect or negligent treatment. Question: was Jayden neglected? Was Jayden left alone at home under the age of 12 or at the age of 12 to take care of himself? That's a form of negligence by the guardians or parents. Not just that, let's move on. Jayden or any child in Jamaica under the Child Care Revised Protection Act is to be protected from maltreatment. Maltreatment such as what? Abuse. All forms of abuse. And not just abuse, but child labor. Is Jayden a victim of child labor? Question. Think about that. Is Jayden being exploited? Yes, I can say yes to that. Even on social media, isn't it that many people are exploiting the name Jayden and the life of Jayden for financial income from social media, growth and numbers and views? Think about that. The Child Development Agency would now need to step in and act quick and fast because social media went off so fast, swift and quick with the story of Jayden that the question on many people's mind is, how did this get here? How did the story of Jayden became so popular? How did the story of Jayden left from a boy home with a child with his guardian, then to the hospital, then to school the following day, then gone missing, then became a national search, if you want to put it that way? Think about that. How many people exploited the story of Jayden or the name of Jayden for financial benefit? Not just that, Jayden must and should be, or any child in Jamaica, be protected from sexual abuse. Well, in this case, we have nothing to say on that. We have heard some derogatory things about the family, and that I will not go into at this moment, but we are saying it is the right of the Child Protective Service, the Child Development Agency, the Child Family Protective Service Agency to step in once they know anything regarding Jayden. Not to mention, they had an open file on Jaden Smith before he went missing at the age of 12. They would have a good track record of Jaden Smith. Finally, while in the care of parents or legal guardians, the Child Development Agency can investigate anyone under the age of 12 or 12 and under, if you want to put it that way, whether in state care, whether under parental guidance and care, or whether under the care and guidance of a guardian. Let's continue on this revision of the Child Care Protection Act as it was reviewed and revised in 2017 and 2018. The writers, which is the Joint Selected Committee of Parliament, continue in their notes to say, we note, however, that despite the Joint Selected Committee's recommendations to improve the laws in a way that fulfills and protects the rights of children, and despite several pronouncements from the government of Jamaica indicating that such changes are to be implemented, the draft bill has not yet been prepared. This was 2018. The need for these legislative changes even more emphatic given the conditions created by COVID-19. So these regulations, these revisions of the Child Care Protection Act was going on even during the time of COVID-19. And if you understand who the principal of the Manchester High School is and the time he would have served in his tenure as the Jamaica Teachers Association president, at some point in his presidency, he would have at some point come upon this Joint Selected Committee's revision of the Child Care Protective Act, because one of the rules of the Child Care Protective Act is that the principal is held accountable, as in regarding a child under his care at school. But let's move on. Early indications from the CPFSA, Child Protective Family Service Agency, and the Victim Service Division of the Ministry of Justice indicate that some types of child physical, emotional, and abuse have increased under lockdown conditions, whereas police reports for 2020 suggest that reporting of related crimes has decreased. Question: how many of us know if during the years of COVID, childcare or the Child Protective Service Agency, how many of us know if they had a file on Jaden Smith during that time? What if Jaden Smith's story had gone back to 2017 and 2018, and he was now one of those child then that was under the supervision, revision, investigation of this act, a child that would have need some form of protection based on his detachment from his biological parents, and one who would have shown intelligent and brilliant excellence performance in school, and the teachers would have identified that child at the time as having socioeconomic conditions that were in need of support from Ministry of Education and all the sectors such as Child Protective Service Agency that would need to protect the right of children. What if Jaden Smith was already in primary school, being watched, being looked at, being protected? Question: let me close this day's presentation on one of the recommendations to Parliament by the Joint Selected Committee that was selected in the years 2017 and 2018 to revise the Child Care Protective Act and what they recommended to Parliament. I'm going to move very quickly to under a topic where it says strengthening mandatory reporting requirement under the Child Care Protection Act. It says here, we recommend, and that's the Joint Selected Committee of Parliament now. They said in section B, I skipped section 1, I'll talk about section 1 next time. In section B, it says, we recommend that the screen of privacy established by section 44 and section 45, note those words, screen of privacy. We're going into deep waters now. So why is it that we are not hearing anything from the Jamaica Constabulary Force? Why is it that we're not hearing anything from the Ministry of Education? Why is it that we're not hearing anything more from the principal of the Manchester High School? Why is it that you're not hearing anything from the authorities that be regarding Jaden Smith? Is it that Jaden Smith is protected under the Privacy Screen Act, Section 44 and Section 45? I am not a lawyer, no. We may need a lawyer to break this down. And I got to understand that there's a group that had already put some funding together through a GoFundMe to get a lawyer to challenge the family of Jaden Smith based on the acts of the Child Care Protection Act. I think you all will be wasting your money. And I think a lawyer is just about to get richer than he had ever been going after Jaden Smith's family or the state. What we should be doing at this moment is to ask the Child Care Protective Services to let us, the public, know, is Jayden okay? Was Jayden found? Should the search be officially called off? Because there's still persons looking for Jaden Smith. I think that should be the major question now. Not getting a lawyer to challenge the family. Not getting a lawyer to challenge the state. It should be just getting a lawyer, if needs be, to ask the question for the public, for us, the citizens, for us, the concerned residents and parents. Can someone tell us if Jaden Smith is alive? Because according to what this Joint Selected Committee of Parliament is saying, there is a screen of policy. There is a screen of policy established in Section 44 and Section 45 of the Child Care Protective Act, whereby in court proceedings, any details regarding the identity of a child, victim, or to be excluded from any news report should be expanded to exclude from publication any information that could lead the public to guess the identity of a person making a mandatory report connected with the case. We have noted instances where the media has provided details that can lead to the identity of the prescribed person who made the initial report to the National Children's Registry being deducted or deduced. We cautioned that this practice should and could lead to reduced reporting or more sinisterly to victim or witness. I'm not a lawyer. What I just read sounds very technical. But what I understand from my small mind is that there is a screen of privacy regarding persons that are under the Child Care Protective Act, regarding persons in state care, regarding persons such as Jayden, if he was found and is in the Protective Service Agency. Jaden Smith, personal information will not be known to the public, will not be known to the media, can be reduced, can be removed from publication. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if you're following me carefully here. But chances are we may not know the truth about Jaden Smith. We may not know the whereabouts of Jaden Smith. We may never hear from the authorities that be concerning Jaden Smith if he is in state care. So the notion and the question for us concerned residents, parents, and citizens of Jamaica should be to the joint selected committee, to the joint selected committees of Parliament, who has the power in revising the Child Care Protection Act. What we should be seeking as a public is someone in authority, whether the Ministry of Justice, whether the Police Commissioner's Office, whether the Ministry of Education, or whether the court system, or the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Someone should come to us, the public, and only let us know. Jayden was found, Jayden is safe, and Jayden is alive. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Jaden Smith's story is not your normal story of a missing child. To understand the depth of Jaden Smith's story, we must look into the Child Care Protection Act. Look carefully at the revised Act of the year 2017 to 2018, which I do believe was passed in law in 2014. This is just an introduction to the Child Care Protection Act. But my next presentation, for my next 6 or 7 videos to come, will be based on looking at pointers in the 2024 Child Care Protection Act that I do believe would have influenced the silence of the authorities on the missing child, Jaden Smith. Until next time, Lofton Orlando White is my name. And may we keep our children safe. And may we protect the children of others.